Welcome, and thank you all for being here this afternoon, which is now this evening. Earlier today, we received some epic news for this region. The Water Authority received great news for our court ruling to challenge the illegal water rates that were charged by the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Let me summarize by saying we won. And when I say we, I don't just mean the San Diego County Water Authority. I mean the ratepayers. I mean businesses. I mean all of the electeds. I mean all of the folks who volunteered with us and fought this fight that started over 3 years ago. And that's just the court portion of this. Today is a huge day. And I do really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank everyone who stood with us and worked with us to make this day happen. Dennis Cushman, Assistant General Manager of the Water Authority, who was at the tip of the spear in this effort, is to my right. Now, there were supposed to be a lot more people here right now, including Maureen Stapleton, who is in Washington, D.C. No one has worked harder than Maureen, our general manager, at this effort, and believe me, she would like to be here. But as luck has it, Maureen is in Washington. She sends her best to everybody, and I have to tell you, she is celebrating and very happy with this decision. Mark Cafferty, who is the president of the San Diego Regional Economic Development Corporation, is with us, and I'm going to invite Mark to come up right now and be up front because I'm going to ask him to make some remarks after Dennis makes his remarks. At the end of the day, this thing is about fairness, equality, and making sure that ratepayers have a fair shake at reliable water. And I could not be prouder of this water authority, this board of directors, and the boards that have preceded this board, as well as the officers who have preceded me and the board chairs who preceded me. This has been a long fight, and a fight that has been worth fighting. For those details, I am going to turn it over to Dennis Cushman. And again, on behalf of the Water Authority, I want to thank all of you ratepayers who have been with us every step of the way. Dennis?
Thank you, Tom, and good evening. As Chair Wornham said, this is a big day for San Diego, and I want to just go over some of the details in today's tentative ruling from Judge Curtis Carnow in San Francisco. After 3.5 years and a 5.5-day trial in December, late today, Judge Carnow issued his tentative ruling in the rate litigation. In his ruling, Judge Carnow ruled that Metropolitan violated California law requirements that water rates be set in accordance with cost of service, cost causation. Specifically, Judge Carnow tentatively ruled that Met's rates violate Proposition 26, now embodied in the California Constitution, the wheeling statutes for the conveyance of water around California, Government Code Section 549997A, and California common law as it applies to rate making. This is the first step in this course of the trial. There will be a second phase of the trial to rule on two other related issues in the litigation. One is a breach of contract claim by the Water Authority, that in a 2003 contract between the Water Authority and the Metropolitan Water District, Metropolitan pledged to set only lawful rates, and those rates were held today in this tentative ruling to have been illegal. The other issue to be decided in a second phase of the trial is the calculation by Metropolitan of the Water Authority's preferential rights to Metropolitan water. The Water Authority alleges that Metropolitan improperly excluded from the calculation of the Water Authority's payments to Metropolitan the payments we've been making to Metropolitan for the past 10 plus years for the transportation of our independent Colorado River supplies to us here in San Diego County. That the judge will set a date or dates for the trial in phase 2 of this case. That will be presumably later this spring or early summer. And after that second phase, and only after that second phase, will Judge Carnow finalize his ruling and judgment in this case. We fully expect, after he has done so, issued a final judgment later this year, that one or more appeals in this litigation may be filed. But for today, and we believe and hope in his final ruling, this is a major victory for ratepayers in San Diego County. It is a major victory for our community. As Chair Wornham pointed out, more than 40 organizations in San Diego County, not just water agencies and government agencies, but business groups, civic groups, taxpayers groups, and others, stood shoulder to shoulder with the Water Authority in this litigation, adopted formal resolutions of support agreeing with the Water Authority's allegations against MWD, and today they stand with us, vindicated by today's tentative ruling by Judge Carno. So in sum, we're very pleased, and I'd like to introduce Mark Cafferty, one of the organizations, one of the many organizations, but a true leader in the business community here, who I think speaks for all of the business organizations in his remarks here this evening. So Mark.
Can you make a bite?
Yes, yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to point out how appropriate it is that Tom Wornham is celebrating with a big glass of water right over here to my right. So,
And it is water.
so first and foremost, this is the San Diego Regional EDC, and again, my name is Mark Cafferty. I'm the president and CEO of a business group that's made up of about 150 members around San Diego County, and they're the 150 largest businesses in and around our county. And I came into my role 2 years ago, and in my first board meeting that I was in and that I was staffing, Dennis Cushman came in to update our board on this very issue. It wasn't the first time, and it certainly actually wasn't the last time, as Tom and Dennis continued, along with Maureen and others, to really make sure that this issue stayed at the forefront of many business groups' advocacy agendas. And the interesting thing about EDC in the past 2 years is we've tried to get away from leading with public policy issues, and we've tried to focus on economic development and job growth. And we only wade into a public policy issue if it passes a very specific test within our organization, and that is that we know it's a public policy issue that impacts jobs and it impacts competitiveness for our region. And as we've utilized that test to make sure that we're only engaged in public policy issues that mean a lot to our business members and the business community, this one continues to be the one that was at the tip of the spear, to use the term that Tom was just using a moment ago. For us, it's all about keeping this region competitive. That's the argument that Dennis has had us continue to make every step of the way. Every cost that gets put on a business in this region becomes a little bit more detrimental to our ability to bring them here, keep them here, or help them grow. And so we see this as a major victory today. And again, I'd like to commend Maureen, the entire team at the Water Authority, Dennis, Tom, and leadership here in helping to keep our business community and our economy competitive in San Diego, and we'll continue to be by your side every step of the way as we continue to make San Diego the best region that we can for businesses, business growth in our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and at this point, we welcome any questions any of the reporters, or either here or on the phone, may have regarding today's tentative ruling. So any questions? But yeah, go
I have
ahead.
a question.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Oh, Tony Perry at the LA Times. Now, when we go to phase 2 of this and we start talking about money, are you asserting that there should be a retroactive payment? That is to say, Metropolitan should rebate money to San Diego, or would we only be discussing what the rate should be going forward?
No.
Retroactive or just going forward?
Yeah, the ruling would apply to rates that have been charged since January 1st, 2011. And so in the breach of contract claim that the Water Authority has with Metropolitan is our allegation that Metropolitan violated the law in setting its rates. And a provision in that agreement, that contract from 2003, required that Metropolitan, over the past 3+ years, and continuing to this day, has set aside all of the disputed payments in this litigation, which at this point, by the end of 2013, amounted to $135 million, not including interest. And that money has, in fact, been set aside and will be center stage, if you will, in the next phase of the trial. And if the judge rules as we think he should, then Metropolitan will, in fact, be required to return those disputed payments to the Water Authority. The Water Authority Board of Directors has already taken an action several years ago that in the event, at the final determination of this case, that the money is refunded to the Water Authority will refund that money to its 24 member agencies in proportion to their payments of these overcharges, these illegal overcharges by Metropolitan. So there'll be a final accounting at some point down the line, but we expect and believe that ultimately the Water Authority will receive money back from MWD that was disputed in litigation.
And is it too early to even hazard a percentage guess if you prevail in the second round, 135 million plus setting a new rate for the future? What kind of percentage cut in homeowners' water bills we might be seeing? Is it too early to see that, or can you venture at least a ballpark guess?
No, it is too early to venture that or attempt to estimate that. But ultimately, in the event of return revenues to the Water Authority that we return to the member agencies, it'll be up to each of our 24 member agencies to then make their own decisions about what will be done with any returned revenue. So that's a long ways down the road, Tony, and a bridge not yet crossed.
Any other questions?
This is Gardner. Sorry. I just want to clarify. Dennis, did you say 235 million?
No, as of the end of 2013, it was about $135 million, not including interest.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I missed the one. Okay.
I just wanted to, it's Elliot Smaggett from the AP, Dennis. I just wanted to clarify, so in the second phase, we'll decide all the money issues, both the refund that Tony discussed and also rates going forward. Is that correct?
What we would expect after the second phase of the trial is that the court will enter a final judgment, and at that point will give any instructions and any awards of funds as part of his decision-making at that stage of the litigation.
Didn't you say previously how much money was at stake? In other words, sort of what the best case scenario would be for San Diego in terms of, I think it was $70 for a household of 4 or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I don't have that figure in front of me, Elliot, but the stakes for San Diego County ratepayers are between $1.3 billion and $2.1 billion over the course of 45 years. This year alone, in 2014, the amount of money at stake in dispute in the litigation is $54 million. It was $57 million the year before, and a similar amount in the earlier years. So that's the annual amount we're talking about, but over 45 years, the amount in dispute is between $1.3 and $2.1 billion.
Is there any aspect of this ruling that you're appealing, or you accept it entirely?
The 66-page ruling just came out very late this afternoon. Our lawyers are reviewing that ruling, and those decisions are still in front of us and not yet addressed.
Thank you.
I mean, is it your view, Tony Perry, that what Metropolitan was really doing is trying to make the price of that Imperial Valley water so high you would regret ever having cut that deal? Is that really what we're talking about here?
No.
They opposed the deal, as I remember, tooth and nail. Is that really what they were doing here, is saying, all right, you got your deal, now choke on it with the cost?
Well, I'm not sure I'd characterize it exactly that way, but to be sure, there is no way that San Diego County Water Authority regrets entering into those historic water transfer agreements out with the Imperial Irrigation District and the canal lining supplies. This year, those agreements will provide 180,000 acre-feet of highly reliable Colorado River water supply that I think, especially this year in the most historic drought California has ever faced, are in fact paying dividends for our community this year. Unlike other regions of the state, San Diego County ratepayers have made major investments in water supply reliability. Principally and foundation of that is the deals with Imperial Irrigation District. Clearly what Metropolitan was trying to do here was to keep the golden goose in the henhouse and keep us captive to their rate-making power and attempt to recover from us in transportation rates what they wanted to always retain in a monopoly over our purchase of metropolitan water. More than a decade ago, we struck out and diversified our purchases of imported water. As you pointed out, Tony, Metropolitan vigorously fought that effort for water supply diversification reliability for 8 years before finally agreeing and consenting in 2003 to those agreements and the broader Colorado River Quantification Settlement Agreement. One of those agreements is the Water Transportation Agreement between Met and the Water Authority, and that'll be the centerpiece of Phase 2 of the trial in the breach of contract claim.
Do you know when phase 2 could be wrapped up and when this could be over with?
There will be a court hearing within the next couple of weeks, a case management conference where we expect Judge Carnot to set a date for Phase 2 of the trial. Only a guess at this point, late spring, perhaps early summer for that decision, and then some weeks after that, a final judgment in the complete case. Any other questions?
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all.